Hi. So, this is my Tissue live feed. Hope that you're having a lovely holiday. I'm hoping that some of you will check this out soon. Hi, Jay. Here we go. I think a lot of people don't like Tissue because it's not easy. It's not as easy as other poems. With some of the other poems, it's like what you see is what you get. So with Charge the Light Brigade, it's very easy. It's just honour the Light Brigade. This is what you're meant to do. This is what the poem is telling you to do. It's not asking you to feel in a certain way or explore it in a certain way yourself. Whereas Tissue, on the other hand, is. And I think for me, I like it more than most people because I feel a more of a personal connection to the poem, whereas a lot of you maybe don't feel that sense of personal connection to the poem. So maybe that's why people like hate it or find it more difficult, but I quite like it. So I brought a few props along with me today, and to try and help that. So thinking about the first stanza, paper that lets the light shine through, this is what could alter things. So here we're talking about a very fragile paper. So I've just been, thank you, I hate it. I've just been scouring my house for a Bible, couldn't find one, but have found this, the Not an Anthology of Poetry. Now this is again one of these massive sort of books with thin paper in it. So I'm just trying to get to this, they're talking about this sort of paper, it's like this, tiny. Now in this book, it's full of poems. She's more talking about the Quran, so she's talking about a religious text here, but that's where the paper is that she's talking about. But it's what's written on that paper is that could alter things, not the paper itself. It's what could actually change things. So there is the context. We know this because we've seen her talk about this. She found a Quran with her name written in the back of it, written by her father, and she felt that connection with him because of that writing. And she says this is what could alter things. Now I have found, not a Bible again, this book that I know, lovely, isn't it? This was given to me when I was a child, and in the front of it I had a very similar experience. You can kind of read that there. This was when I was a bridesmaid when I was 4, and that was given to me by my parents. Now that is my dad's handwriting, and I hadn't remembered about this, I hadn't seen this, but when I looked at this book and I read it with my daughter, I saw that and I was like quite taken aback by it, and it reminded me of the relationship that I had with my father. Now let's not go into it too much, I'm going to start crying on my live feed. I don't see very much of him. So there we are, and it was quite nice to have that connection. And what she says in the poem here is that it could alter things. So things that are written down could change things. Now I asked you in my classes to write some thank you letters for teachers around the school, and that really made a difference to people. Like, I loved the ones that I got, thank you very much, I really did appreciate them. But I had emails from other teachers saying thank you, you know, that made them like well up, or they had a lump in their throats. And these were just words that were written down that had that kind of power. So when Amethyst Dark was talking about the paper that could alter things, it's not so much the paper, it's the words on the paper. And that's where the power comes from. So like I said, I feel like I have a personal connection with that myself. You might be able to experience that yourselves. But anyway, that's that. So that's the first bit. Now she says that's the first 3 lines, so we'll try and get to grips with that. And it says paper thinned by age or touching. So the idea of like stroking the paper. I don't know if any of you have stroked paper before. One day maybe you will. But anyhow. But it's the idea of that physical connection with with what's written there, like trying to kind of almost reach out and touch it. Anyway, so at line 5, the kind you find in well-used books, the back of the Quran, where a hand has written in the names and history of who was born to whom. Now, there's a real power in recording people's histories. Now, again, another prop here. This is the baby book for my first daughter, and I have written in it, you know, lots of things for her to look at later. There's her name and everything else, and how heavy she was when she was born and everything. You may have these yourself that your parents have created for you, and it's that sense of importance of writing things down, so we can look back and we can remember our family histories. Now, if we're thinking about family history, we can link that to Kamikaze and the real importance of family history that comes through there, that she's trying to make sense of her family history. And rather than it being written down in Kamikaze like it is in Tissue, it's that oral tradition. So there's a slight contrast there, but there's a similarity between them as well. So where you came from and who you are is a nice comparison there. Now, what have I put here? So, the words change. Yes, that's right. Sorry, I'm just thinking. Again, so like I said before, this is not telling you how to feel. This is they're very much a suggestive poem. You can interpret it in your own way. The second section, she goes on to talk about buildings, and if buildings were paper, I might feel their drift, see how easily they fall away on a sigh. So potentially hinting at terrorism from 9/11, that buildings can just be blown up. A hint at it, just a suggestion. She does, if I might feel their drift, like, does that mean to understand them? If they were paper, she might understand them more. Maybe she feels more of a link with paper. And then talks about maps too. The sun shines through their borderlines. The idea of us trying to control the world with maps and with rivers, but it's not necessarily going to happen. And that reminds me of London a little bit, of that idea of being chartered. We talked about it the other day. Now, the fine slips paragraph, stanza, from grocery shops that say how much was sold and what was paid by credit card, it might fly our lives like paper kites. Now, here is another sense of control and sense of power. If I go back to this prop, this is from when I was at university, and these fine slips of paper, I have found in this a list of what I set myself to do one day for revision. Get up at 8, start work at 9. It's quite ambitious. Have breaks, learn quotes, feel like you guys. So, but these are like these little things. This is like ruling my life. These little bits of paper telling me how I was going to do things. So I can understand what she's trying to say with that image in there. Fly our lives like paper kites. These little bits of paper that control us. These little lists. These credit receipts. These the letters. All these sorts of things that keep us kind of connected, grounded. Because the idea of the paper kites is quite a beautiful image, but actually it's keeping us grounded and keeping us, that you can't move away from it. It might fly around, it's always still there. And also think of the fragility of a paper kite, that it can just crumble at any time. Okay, so that's the first section. I think I'm going to just pause for a second and I'll come back in a minute with the next section of the poem.